Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, discussing all things audiobooks with the authors that write the stories and the narrators that perform them. Brought to you by Viviana, Enchantress of Books.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 20 of the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, presents Enchantress After Dark. This is a new series with the same great content, just a wee bit more intimate with our guests. In the past 2 years, we've been the official podcast for the Allure book signing in 2022 and the Readers Take Denver convention in 2023. So for 2024, you've guessed it, Dark Star Con is our event that we're hosting and being the official podcast for. That event is taking place August 29th through September 1st in New Orleans, Louisiana. Dark Star Con is a book convention focused on audiobooks and what's the next best thing happening in the audiobook world. Visit their website to learn more about this event and grab your tickets while you still can. Today, I'm excited to be chatting and to welcome narrator Maeve York to the podcast. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk to you today. You have been on my feed and in my to listen list. And I'm like, I get to talk to her today. Yay.
I'm stalking you on social media. Yeah, I'm on there a lot right now, but it's great. It's fun.
Yeah, no, it's great to kind of see you guys, be able to kind of peek into that world of the booth and see how things are done on your end. But it's been fun. And I'm like, when I had you on the calendar, I'm like, yay. But I did want to have you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been narrating and how you got started.
I've been narrating for a little over 4 years now, about 2 years being full-time. And like most folks, I spend my first 2 years just training and coaching and going to conferences and networking and just trying to understand the business and meet people. So I've been doing that for, 4 years. And I started out on the stage. I was classically trained at the University of Michigan as an actress, and then I was a stage actress in New York City. But then through subsequent changes through life, I had a friend that was an audiobook narrator. And she's like, have you ever thought of doing this? And I was like, yeah, that would be great. I mean, literature and performance. I mean, can it get better than that? So she kind of took me under her wing and showed me a few things. And then it was, me in my closet recording with clothes and towels all around me, trying to audition for things. And then finally realized that's really not a good way to begin. But then I got a booth and got all my equipment. And after my training, it just kind of took off from there.
It's amazing how we all have a starting story. And yeah, closets and bathrooms are the way to go. And what other industry it's okay to start? Where did you start working at? In the closet?
Yep. With a pop filter. I don't know if anybody knows what a pop filter is, but it helps us with our sharp sounds that our mouths make in the microphone. And I was using a nylon stretched over a hanger. Whoa, that was my pop filter when I started. Like, that's how green I was.
You were resourceful?
Yes, exactly.
You were creative, and you went above and beyond because you could have not had one. So you did it.
I did it. I made it work.
Made it work. And that's, I think, too, the way to, a lot of times nowadays, like you hear that, oh, someone said I sounded good, or I sounded sexy, depending on how you want to go about it. But I'm like, there's a lot more to it. Great. I mean, you have one of the many other qualifications that you will need to do it. But I love the fact that you had a friend. Thank you to that friend, whoever it was, your friend, to get you into this. Thank you for them for suggesting it. And I wish that was more of a broader conversation, like at schools, to say, hey, not only can you be a doctor and a nurse and this and a lawyer and a fighter, but you can also do audiobooks.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is an avenue, especially any sort of art. It doesn't seem like it's really encouraged outside of, oh, I'm so glad you dabbled in that in high school. Like, good for you. And when I went to the University of Michigan and I claimed my major is performance and theater, I mean, of course, my parents were like, what is she going to do with that? And and that's what people say, right? When you're going to go into your passion, which could be in the arts, that's like, well, good luck.
When it comes down to the youth and like even my kid and my niece, I knew that a 4-year college thing is not the thing for everybody.
Oh, for sure.
I've always been the advocate of, like, if you have a skill set or you're a hobby, you like it and you're willing to, do this for like 15 hours a day, because that's what happens when you own your own business. Forget the 9 to 5. They don't tell you that either, by the way.
Nope. Forget weekends, evenings.
You're eating at your desk and stuff like that, if you can remember to eat. But it's good to, look into, other venues, and that includes the arts and stuff, whether it's, crocheting. I mean, people love that stuff. It might take a little bit more, but I really do wish that the arts was a bit more of a, what's the word? I think I want to say something like supportive. The same way that your parents would be happy to hear, I'm going to be a lawyer.
Right.
They went to be like, I want to be an audiobook narrator.
Yeah, it's definitely not mainstream, I guess we should say.
But I think people more and more are having these kind of conversations, whether it's, the kids watching us getting into our books, like, Mom, what's Mom doing? Mom's reading right now. Y'all go away.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So I'm hoping that in the next couple of years, it can be part of that conversations for, juniors and seniors in high schools to kind of say, hey, not only can I do this, but I'm more artsy. These are the different venues that you can have and stuff like that. But again, your friend's awesome for suggesting the audiobooks.
She is awesome. She's great. Yes.
So you've been doing this now for about, for like you're saying 4 years, and there's been a lot of change too. You came into the moment that there's another boom into all this.
Yes.
Yeah, which is good timing. I think it's been great to get all the new voices and stuff like that in there. But now that things, you've been doing this for 4 years, has any of that routine changed for you as far as when you start prepping that book and get in the booth for the first time?
It definitely has changed. And I think most of what has changed is that I think that a big part that I didn't need before that I feel like I need now is more of a social media presence. I do think that people are there and they're really interested in knowing these audiobook narrators. It's kind of an exciting thing, actually, is for some, not necessarily me, but for some, there's a real star quality. And it is really exciting for a listener to be able to see their favorite narrator either narrate live, or whether they even just do a reel, or meeting them at book conferences. It's become a thing. And I think that that's exciting. It's a whole other part of the job for sure. But I think that that has changed from the beginning as me feeling like to stay top of mind, or to stay present, or just to stay active, is being more involved in that way and getting to know my listeners. And I never knew I had listeners. But then I started doing lives, and somebody would come up and they'd say, oh, I listened to that whole series you did. You're my favorite. Or somebody said, I fall asleep listening to you. I didn't know these things. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it has really been great to connect with the listeners. That's been, I don't know, a huge change for me this last year. And then other than that, when you begin, you hustle to get known. And you hustle to get publishers and hustle to get indie authors to know you. And then once you're there, you're still not done. I feel like the hustle is the same, if not more so, now, because I want to keep working for these people. I want to keep being known. I want to keep getting really good books. And so the hustle has actually felt even more so, oddly enough, even as I now don't have to hustle for jobs like I used to, but now I just hustle to keep getting them. So I'm not very comfortable unless I have 3 months booked or something like that at a time.
It's interesting what we find, like that moment that kind of says, okay, as long as you, in your case, 3 months. I remember when growing up, and even to this day, as long as I have a half a tank of gas, I'm okay. Yeah. As long as I can get the gas and the groceries financially, I'm fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's freelancing. It's all the stuff that you do, the stuff that I do is freelancing. And so there is no job security per se. And so you have to hustle and you have to stay relevant. And when more and more voices are coming into the field, which is fantastic, it comes into what else are you bringing to the table? I've been loving your social media and kind of getting to know you that way. But I'm also fascinated about, some people be like, and I'm sure you may have had this thought, well, all they're doing is just watching me work. Right? How is that exciting? It's like when I, the way I think about why do y'all want to know what I'm eating? Here's a picture of the food. Okay, fine. I'm so not that influencer. That way, I've struggled, girl. I've struggled with the social. For you guys, I can come up with plans and what that looks like and what you should be doing. But for oneself, yeah, it's hard. But I think it's fascinating to kind of see you guys work, whether it's oh, look, she's changing the character and the POV or the different characters talking. So you sit straighter or you lounge a little less. You know what I mean? There's certain things that you guys do that you guys may not even realize that you're doing. But us as now the viewer of your work, we get to see that. And I'm like, oh, so when I hear the book, I'm like, oh, this is the part where she stood up straight,
I love that.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, that's what it was. Oh, now I get the whole picture. Ooh,
Yeah, there was a listener yesterday who said, I love how you are yelling from the other room, because you don't really yell from another room, but the way you move your body or the way you kind of do your voice a little bit from the other room. And I thought, I just do that. I didn't think that they would catch on to that. So the fact that you're saying you catch on to these nuances of how you perform on a microphone and watching that and that it's fun. It's fun to watch that and see that. And then, yeah, when you listen to the book, you're like, oh, I remember I was there. I saw them do that.
Yeah, because when you're watching a play on stage or when you're watching a movie, you're seeing the actors, even if they don't sound like they're the happiest, but they're smiling. There's something there to give you cues of how they're feeling, what they're saying, if things are going kaboom around them, to kind of give you that level of full immersiveness when you're watching a movie. When we're listening to audiobooks, we just got you in our earbuds. And even the ones when it comes down to more immersive audiobooks, whether there's sound and sound effects and multicast or solo narration, you're still having to perform. And sometimes people don't get it. I'm like, I can hear you smiling in your voice. I can hear when you're really excited and the character is really excited because the tone and the cadence is different and stuff like that. So to be able to kind of see that as you guys are doing your job, it's just like fascinating. Yes, it's just human nature, Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
So the other thing too that I've noticed with listening to audiobooks, and I've always myself have been interested in like accents, like knowing that if someone is from South, like if they're from Atlanta, Georgia versus Texas versus, North Carolina, all Southerners, different accents, different stuff. And then, you add your British accents and your Scottish and all this other stuff. There's just so many of them. And we as Americans love that shit.
It's
we're
so
suckers
true
for it. We're complete suckers for it. Yes. I mean, it's amazing. And you guys are performing them. It's also great to hear because I'm like, I know she's from, Michigan. She's not going to have that Scottish accent. But when you guys are performing things, it's like you forget.
Well, that's good. I'm glad it's believable. Yes, that's great.
Yeah, it should. I mean, and I also honestly, and I've said this story before, it's all about convincing me just enough, right? Such a slight little tone and thing. Because at the end of the day, there's been 2 instances where reviewers have been like, oh yeah, their Irish accent completely sucked. It's so unbelievable. And they're talking about Gary Furlong, who is Irish.
Yes. I think that happened to an Aussie narrator. They were like, oh, your Aussie accent's not very good. It's like, no, this is where I live.
Yep, exactly.
Pretty sure I know what I'm doing.
and the same thing, like with there was from a British perspective, the Shane East. Oh, his British is so unbelievable. I'm like, well,
oh my goodness.
Better
believe it.
I know, right? I'm like, it's okay. His British can work a little bit. Stop it, really? But that's us as listeners. As a performer of these accents, what is your favorite accent to perform?
Well, I would say, so the easiest ones for me are probably the British because I grew up loving the Beatles. Mm-hmm. And so I watched every movie the Beatles did, and I just sort of became a fan of England in general. And so I kind of just caught on to that one. So that one's an easier one for me to just hop in and out of. And then American Southern also is not too difficult for me. I used to live in North Carolina, and so I have a little bit of just that I can return to. So I would say those 2 are the easiest for me, but Irish is probably my favorite. And I had to learn German for a book, and it was the hardest, meaning the accent, sorry, not the actual language. That was so difficult. And then it became seamless, but it's still the accent that if I get it, I will have to go back to my training materials, do them all over again, and then do it. That one just doesn't come quickly to me. But yeah, I would say British, Irish, and American Southern. Those are my favorite because I don't even have to think with those like I have to think with others. I'm actually doing a Russian accent right now, and I have to think a little bit because it's been so long. And you'd think it would just come right back, and it does, like midway through the book, but I'm having to find myself practicing a lot more than normal.
Yeah, some of them just stick easier, I think. And it's definitely one that I pick them up while I'm hanging out with the group, right? So like if I were to go to, when I go to Savannah, Georgia, give me a day or a couple of hours, and all of a sudden there's a little bit of that Southern Savannah, Georgia I'm like, stop it, Vivi. They're going to think. And it's not that I'm making, I pick it up. And so for me, I feel like I would have to listen to it for a little while and then bust out with, strong like Russian bear. There we go. We're going to, and kind of go from there. Otherwise, it'd be like, yep, can't do it, Captain.
Yes. Yeah, there are certain phrases, and I'm trying to think of one now that I tend to have to say to get into the accent, and then I can get into it. And, for lack of a better one, if people want to get into their Boston accent, they might, park the car and have it yad. Like they might say that just to get into it. I have those for each accent. And of course, they're not coming to me right now. And sometimes it's the placement. So the thing I learn when I learn an accent is, where does it live in my mouth first? That's the first thing. Like, is it in the back of my throat? Am I moving my lips a lot? Are my lips relaxed? And so that's the first thing I have to think of. And then I do my little catchphrase, and hopefully I hop right into it. Hopefully.
My thing would be getting out of it. So like, here you are at home cooking yourself some dinner and you're talking to the dog or the cat, and the accent just doesn't go away because you're stuck with it for the next couple of hours.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah. When I was learning Irish, because I really wanted to learn Irish so badly. And so I would just say it around the house. Whoever was around, I would just be doing the accent. And I'm pretty sure it got old after a while for everybody else, but I got it. So it was worth it. Now, one thing I can't seem to do is learn Scottish yet. Those are so close. And there's certain nuances, and I'm ready. That's my next one. I want to be a Scottish superhero so much. So much. I want to live in those castles.
I know. I'm like, trust me. It's just one of those things where like, I've always loved, England and the British and stuff like that. And, Pride and Prejudice was like my jam, still is, especially the movie with Matthew McFadden. I had an entire fangirl moment the other day when the new Deadpool trailer came out, not because the Deadpool character, was because it looks like a secondary character is Matthew McFadden. And I'm like, Mr. Darcy is going to be a Deadpool.
I'm going to have to look at that now.
Yeah. If I was to go to England tomorrow, my entire itinerary would be kind of going through the different locations of the movie of Pride and Prejudice because they were just so magnificently beautiful. And then head over to like Stonehenge, and then go to, Scotland, and like, can I just stay at a castle? That's just like my thing. So I get
All right, let's book it. You and me. That's what I want to do too.
Yeah, well, I've been looking at those books events that they have like rare, across the pond. And I'm like, one of these days, I'm going to not be scared shitless to cross that ocean.
Yeah, I was thinking of that. I have a few authors that are from England, and I think about that like, going over there. And I would love the northern British accent, like Yorkshire and that area. I love that. I love listening to that. And I would just love to sit in one of their pubs and just listen to people talk. It would be so great.
Yeah, I can imagine us sitting at the bar though, and stuff completely American for the first 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it's like, hey, can I have another pint, please?
Yeah. Oh, it'd be great.
Oh, it'd be fun. Yeah. But I mean, these are the kind of things that, as listeners, we love the storytelling. And it's just one of those things where I know when I'm reading a book or I'm listening to it, it's almost like a movie in front of me. And you guys are the characters and the different, whether you're the heroine or the best friend and things like that. It's just to me, it's just mind-boggling how you guys do that, and so convincingly too. It's like, wow. And there's been a couple of times too when I've listened tonight and I know your voices. I can pinpoint you guys like out of a lineup. And then there's something that you do, and I'm going, who was that? And that happened recently with a narrator, and I'm like, who is that? And they were giggling because the person that was giving me the sample knew. And I'm like, no, seriously, like, I can't pinpoint this person. Who is it? And they told me, I'm like, no, really? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, shit. I didn't know they had that in them. Okay. It's really those great surprises when you're hearing these stories and you guys are performing and you're going, damn, Maeve, like, wow. I'm like, she really was a bitch in that character.
Yes.
I
play a lot of those.
With you being an actor and, on stage and things like that, you guys to play these different kind of characters. When it comes down to these books now, you get to be the heroine and the main character, but you also get to be that ass, that's, being a dick in this, or who's being a, petty ass this way and stuff like that. How do you like it? You're like, yeah.
I do. I love it. And a matter of fact, somebody said to me the other day, they said, would you ever go back on stage? I was like, and play one character? No. Like, that's not fun. One person's point of view. I do love it. I love getting in. When I read the book, it's great that I think to myself, I don't need to figure out the character and motives of just one person. I need to know why the villain is the villain. I need to make that believable. I need to make their journey just as interesting as the main character, because they've got a reason for being there, and their words are there for a reason, and the author wrote them in for a reason, and I want to figure out why. And so I love that part of just, picking these people apart. Who are they? Where are they from? Why are they acting like this?
Mm-hmm.
And that is probably a favorite part of this job for me is, the human experience of these characters. What, why, how, and what's going to happen. I love it.
I always love it too when the author has written these characters and they're either, whether it's in the same series, and so a lot of people pop in and out again of the different books, or it's one of those books where a series where it's an overarching, and so you have the main character and these people pop in here and there. And there's always one of them and authors do this, and it's not like they do it on purpose just to get a rise out of us. They've been the villain and the dick and the bitch, whatever you want to call them, the entire time until, book 4 or, book 7. And now they're the main character and they're going to get their HEA. And you're going, oh, how is this going to play out?
Yes. Yes. Those twists and turns. Yep.
Have you had to do that where you've been, the villain is just one of those where you're like, oh, okay, great. They're the villain. You've, done your research, you've done your thing. And then you're like, yes, I get to play the whole book with them.
I haven't had one exactly like that where, I do a lot of reverse harems. And a lot of enemies to lovers romance. And so a lot of those, there's some super evil men that become the love interest and all the good ways for the female POV. And so there's that switch that you think somebody's some way. But I have not yet had that. I've read these types of books because I especially love thrillers and mysteries to read, of where the best friend turns and, that one's the villain and you would have never seen it. Oh, I love that. I love those twists and turns. I would love to do a book like that, but I don't do a lot of mysteries yet, but that is a favorite genre for me. And I would love to do more mystery thrillers for sure.
Nice. Well, here you heard it here, folks. There's one of those things. Well, it's just sometimes it sucks that it still happens, but I just talk about being typecast, right? Yeah. And I think even in the book world and in the audiobook world, it seems like sometimes it happens. You're going to be always the bubbly, BFF. So, you may not be able to get the darker stuff or the paranormal things or, wanting to do thrillers and things like that. So I think it's cool that we have these kind of conversations and say, hey, I'm open. Maeve is open to doing thrillers and she wants to know where to hide the bodies and who done it.
That's right. I want to know where the shovels are. It's funny because I do a lot of romance, which I love doing the romance. I really love those and I want to do those forever. But I do a lot of fantasy, which I do like fantasy, but it surprised me because I grew up as the Star Wars, Star Trek loving kid. And so when I started getting all the fantasy, I was like, that's interesting. I don't do sci-fi at all. But I've come to love that genre. And it's actually probably the main thing that I've done because I start to get you do. You start to get known for something. And when you get followers, people who love you tend to love you in that fantasy novel they listen to. And so they want to hear you do more of that type of thing. So there is a bit of typecasting that probably goes on. But I hope, as time goes on, that I can dabble in lots of different things. I don't think I'd be very good at nonfiction, but that's neither here nor there. But man, maybe sci-fi and mystery someday. Yeah. Maybe.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, like the romantic suspense can kind of sometimes hit that mystery part of things and the thrillers because, things go kaboom and someone's being bad and someone's got to get rescued and things like that. But also, I think, you're absolutely right that when listeners find the voice that they love, they will follow you guys and discover new authors because you're narrating that book.
That is true.
But that also means that if there's ever something where like, okay, great, never to not want to get into a genre that you may not have thought you wanted to get into because people don't know you, people will follow you. So if you want to do that horror romance, so that's been popular lately with the authors. Like, what other genre do you want to write aside from romance? And they're like, horror. And I'm like, damn, okay, there you go. It's been a lot lately. But thrillers and mysteries and all, there's so many different genres that are within the romance umbrella, but also outside. And I think it's just there's been some times where I've read some books that I would have never picked up outside of romance, but because a narrator that I love and adore was narrating it, I'm like, give it a try. If they can't save it, I don't know anything else will.
Yeah.
Or there's been times where that book has been thrown across the room because, the writing or something wasn't clicking. And then I'm like, is it on Audible? Let me go check if it's available in book. And I'm like, yes, it's an audiobook. Yay. And then I've been able to listen to it like no issues.
Isn't that funny? Do you find that where there's some books that you just love to read the print version, but there's some that just are so much better in audio?
It is. The Discovery of Witches is one of my all-time favorite books. And it's a series, but it takes place a lot of the story takes place in like France and in Europe, where if I were to be reading this, it would sound like, and then she went to blah, 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 blah. And then blah, because inserts the city or the city of the town and it's in French or it's in German. And I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And they can kind of take you away a little bit from the story. And, or whether there's the names or the things and stuff like that. So I picked it up in audio because I love the narrator. And my God. And then I saw how it was written. I'm like, is that how you pronounce it? So I learn that way too. But there's been times, like J.R. Ward has her Bourbon series. J.R. Ward loves very descriptive. So as this character is driving up to the house, we're learning about all the flowers that the gardener put down and the different textures and things. And you're going, okay, can we just get down to the 5 minutes? It's only 5 minutes away, people. Come on, drive. And that's because I'm trying to speed up to something, right? I'm trying to get to the meat of the story. You really can't speed that stuff up so much in audio. People speed up the speed, and that's a different conversation for a different day as to whether they should or shouldn't or whatever. I'm like, you want to hear them like chickmunks? That's on you, boo. I like to keep it at that normal conversational level. So, but it just goes a lot smoother to me. It's almost like listening to someone telling me the story. It's different than me having to sit there and read it. I think that's where the differences lie for a lot of us in some of that
I agree,
stuff.
100%. Yeah.
Because if I could do something else, whether it's just, a little bit of spacing out, or do my graphics and have you sit next to me and read me the work, I'm all for that.
Yes, exactly.
It would have been a lot better.
Some narrators can do that narrative of those cityscapes, or even if it's a countryscape or what have you, and it just brings the life to it that I sometimes don't get when I'm just reading in bed before night.
Yes.
And the way that they can, like you said, describe the flower or describe the feel of the air in that moment. And it's just, it's really powerful. It's a really powerful moment to hear that versus read it, I think. I completely agree.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I know sometimes we all learn differently. And I think that that's also where, as we continue to have these open dialogues regarding our mental health and our learning of styles, it has more of like, okay, well, but now that explains it why an adult I'm so much more into audiobooks than eyeball reading, for an example, aside from my need to multitask. And there's just certain things that I remember studying for things via reading the textbook, but needing to have the music in the background. So I'll have like Nirvana blasting or Metallica blasting. And my mother's like, how are you studying? And I'm like, for whatever the reason, it was the cadence. I think of the music and the reading stuff kind of made it stuck into memory and to learn it. And so the same thing with the audiobooks. And I think that's where it's great that we have that accessibility now to be able to share this love of stories with a lot more people because we now have it in audio.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So were you a reader before getting into audiobooks? Like, did you read a whole lot and also listen to audiobooks?
I don't think you would find me without a print book prior to becoming an audiobook narrator. I was reading all the time. I actually buy bags and purses that fit books. Otherwise, I don't need it because I would have one everywhere I went. And I still love reading books. It's one of my favorite things. If I can go to the beach on a summer day with my book, I will never leave. That is a favorite of mine. And now I listen to audio, I don't even know how many times a day, almost constantly. I do it while I am working out. I'll do it when I'm on a walk. I'll listen in the car. I'll listen while I'm cooking dinner. And it's just constantly in my ear. I have fallen in love with audiobooks in a way that I didn't think I would have when I first started listening. I was like, yeah, I'll check it out. It'll be good. It'll be fun. Something new. And now I can't even imagine. It actually is the thing. So I tend to fall asleep really well, but if I wake up in the middle of the night and my brain starts working, forget it. I cannot go back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Cannot. Except now I have audiobooks, and there's certain narrators that I just love to listen to. Not that they put me to sleep, but they relax me. Like Julia Whalen, you can't, like, her voice is so easy to listen to, but there's many others. But that is something that helps me get back to sleep when I wake up in the middle of the night. I don't know what I would do without audiobooks. And like you said, accessibility is also a reason. But I think too, for anybody, I love hearing stories because I really can't sit down and read like I used to, especially being an entrepreneur and being, this is my own business. And it takes, like you said, it can be 15 hours a day sometimes. And so being able to still have stories in my ears is wonderful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
It really is. And it's also one of the few jobs too that you can say, oh, they put me to sleep so well. And it's not like a negative, it's a compliment.
Yeah. There was a listener who commented on one of my posts, I think, and she said, "You have been with me through so much. I have cried, I have laughed. I don't know what I would have done without you at times." And that's power in a way that I don't even, like, it hits me. It hits me deep in my gut to think that somebody is not healed, but somebody is calmed because of me, or somebody is taken away from pain or difficulty because of something I've done. And that's powerful. And I am so honored that I actually have that opportunity to be that for someone at some time in their life. It chokes me up.
Yeah. Well, I think also too, it does it where you guys are, in situations where, people have been the caregiver of someone at a hospital, whether it's a parent or their own child. And the only time that they're able to kind of get away from the beeping sounds of a hospital and stuff like that is via the audiobooks. And I mean, there's so many different scenarios. I mean, I've heard so many stories from listeners that have said, oh yeah, if it wasn't for fill in the blank author story narrated by XYZ, it would have been even harder to help my mom with blah, blah, blah. Stuff like that is just, it's great. But I also love it now that they are able to tell you guys these stories and tell you thank you for being there for them. As much as people say social media sucks and social media negative this and social media negative bad stuff that, I think there's a lot of good stuff that can be made by social media. Having that connectiveness and being able to thank someone for being there and telling us that story that got us through a horrible time, or, listening to something while you're trying to convince yourself to finish that one last mile.
Yes.
Because sometimes the songs don't do it. You're like, okay, I need Maeve in my ear to tell me that I'm going to just need to finish this chapter. And then that means I can get stuff on, get off the damn treadmill and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And it sucks too, because that whole like one more chapter is usually how I end up staying up longer than I need it to be.
Right.
But that's also like, okay, I'm going to do one more chapter, do this work, and then I'm going to do my lunch break. And then I'm like, oh man, all right, fine. If I eat real quick, I can get back to the book sooner.
Yep. I feel you.
Well, you're working with words all day long. And, but whether you're prepping it or you're narrating them and stuff like that, what's your favorite word? And it's different from your favorite curse word, because that's also the second part of this question.
My favorite word. Oh my goodness. That is super hard.
So she said.
Yeah. Yes. See, we talked about that. I think I knew you'd get that too. I think I might be saying this word wrong. I'm going to try though. It's sisu. I'm not quite sure. It's a Finnish concept. It's like strength of will, determination, perseverance when, it's being brave. And so it's such a simple word, but it's really powerful. So whenever I'm doing things that are hard, I will say that word. I'll be like, I got to get my sisu or my sisu. Since I'm an audiobook narrator, I should probably Google translate that and say it correctly. But I would say that's a word that I like, the simple word that has a lot of power behind it.
That's a good word. I'm going to have to look that up too.
Yeah, it's SISU. And I just, I have it up on my phone even a lot, and I'll just go and look at it and read the definition if I'm feeling down on myself or down in general. And I just look at that and I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, I can.
Which leads me then to your favorite curse word.
Well, it's funny because I grew up in a really religious home, and cursing was not something that I heard. And when I did, it was like, shock. And then I got older, and then I realized that I have an inner sailor that I did not nurture when I was younger. And so I would say that it's got to be fuck. I mean, I tend to say that in the booth maybe, I don't know how many times a day. It's the word that comes out when I get things wrong. Just like, fuck, God, fuck. Like that's kind of me in the booth, which I try and not do on lives if I can.
Yeah, but it's such a good word.
I know. It feels good to say. And I don't know why it does, but it really does.
Yeah, I think if we were to really look at it, it's the sound that the F makes and the k at the end is just so like, there's so many different ways and nuances that you can pronounce it and still be so gratifying and satisfying at the same time that you're like, oh yeah, it's one of those things you're like, fuck. And like you said, I mean, you demonstrated there like 3 different ways to say it and based off of the emotions in the moment. And I could totally hear that.
There's another word that I just learned in a book that I did that it's become a favorite word, and it's called metanoia. And it means a transformative change of heart. And I'm like, we don't use that anymore. So I try really hard and be like, no, having some metanoia right now, a transformative change of heart. I like those kind of words too, things that have good meaning, but you never really hear very often. So I guess those are my words.
It's such a vast array of words out there, whether it is also add now the different ways to say them because of the different languages and dialects, that it's just, when people say like, in fact, I think I saw it. It was the other day that it was a meme on social media, and he says Shakespeare never wrote. There's no way to just never said or never wrote the poem of like, there's so many ways I cannot say how great you are or how much I love you. That's a cop out. There's a way to tell people what they mean to you. And so I'll have to find it and send it to you. Basically, it was saying that when people tell you, no words can describe how beautiful you are, or no words can describe how I feel about you. It's like, yeah, no, there's a word out there. Just go find it.
Get a thesaurus. Try harder.
Yes. The other thing we kind of brought up about traveling and being at events and stuff like that. You're going to be at Dark Star.
I am.
Yes. And now is this going to be, I'm trying to remember and think, is this going to be your first event that you go to, or do you have another event prior to this one?
So that will be my first one of this year. I'm not going to Readers Take Denver. And then I am going to Book Bonanza, but that's June. So this will be the first one of this year. And then the only other signing I've ever done is Allure, and that was in Chicago. And I'm also going to Bray in Columbus, and I'm trying to remember that's actually before.
May.
Yeah, that is May. So these are before because I'm getting confused. August is Dark Star, May is Bray, and then Book Bonanza is June, And I think that's it for me this year. I might go to Vegas, but I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, that's still a lot.
It is. I mean, there's always, it's that FOMO, right? The fear of missing out feeling. And there are so many book conferences, and I want to go to them all, and I want to meet everybody, and I want to be involved. But I'm trying to pick where the people that I've narrated for are going so that I can be there and basically see them face to face and say, thank you. Thank you for your writing. Thank you for trusting me with your writing. And that's my driving force this year to go to these events.
I was talking to someone today earlier about you guys as narrators and going to the events. And I love it when events pair you up, like that the author and the narrator are going to be both at the same events. That's fantastic, because they had told me, she's like, I didn't realize that a lot of times the narrators have never met or spoken to the author. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how that works.
It's true.
Sad, but it's true. So I'm excited for you that you're going to be at these three events this year. It'll be interesting because Dark Star is a little different because it is focused on audiobooks, but you went to Allure, which was the official first one that was really focused on audiobooks, and that one fantastic. So I'm really hoping that the readers and the listeners that are going to Dark Star are going to have so much fun and really enjoy the moment of being with all these very talented people, authors and narrators.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, I love that it's audiobook focused. I love that for sure.
It's going to be fun. There's a lot of different things going on. Are you getting your stuff ready, like your swag for these events?
Oh, I found what I want to get. I'm super excited. And I don't know if I should let the cat out of the bag or just surprise everybody. But everybody has to come see me because it's probably going to be really expensive and so worth it, but I'm going to do it anyway. So yeah, I have a little swag gift that I have developed, and I cannot wait to get them. I'm excited.
It's always surprising. I'll either have oh man, I didn't think about that one kind of moment when I see it. And others I'm like, that's just so freaking cheeky. I love it. And there's things like, okay, they went there. All right. I could always use a ruler for measuring things, even though on the other side of that ruler is something else.
Yes.
Yes. You know what I'm talking about.
That's what I want. I do. I want something that somebody really could use. And it might be like, a double entendre.
It's definitely something fun. And I know that there's a lot of readers that go to these events that collect those kind of swags. They also purchase, merch from the narrators when they have it available as an offer. And it's going to be so much fun. So I can't wait to see you at Dark Star.
You too. And it's New Orleans. I mean,
I know.
We're going to have so much fun.
Yeah, I was talking to Victoria Blue yesterday, and I was telling her about the house that has the iron fence, which New Orleans is known for. But these are shaped like penises.
Yes.
Some people know it because it's part like a tourist. It's like a tourist attraction at this point when you go to New Orleans. You go to Mount.
I did not know.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get a group together. Dark Star Con people just go together. Like, let's go look at the penis fence.
Everybody will want to go.
To go. Troy, can we add that to the itinerary?
Yeah.
Just an outing.
It's a penis
just a group
walk.
outing.
Yeah.
It's a penis walk. Where are y'all going? We're going to go see penises. I mean, the fence is architectural education.
Exactly.
Yes.
We're looking at old architecture.
Yes.
We're broadening our minds.
And it's a really fun city. There's a lot of things to do. And I think that when you can combine a nice little vacation for yourself or your, a family outing and still be able to do something like go and talk about books, it's a win-win for everybody. 100%.
Yes. I'm bringing some family folk around with me as well, just because, it's New Orleans. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's always a, fun place. Great food, great music, lots of different places to look at. Because a lot of authors, you also use New Orleans and different locations, depending on where you go, as the backdrop to the story. And like Sharon Kenyon is one of my favorite authors, and one of her stories and series takes place there. So I'm like, oh, that's where the bar was. And oh, this was over there. And that was so-and-so's house.
Oh, yeah.
So those are always fun too, to kind of look into that and see how that looks. But definitely I'll talk to Troy about the penis outing.
Yeah. I'm in.
Perfect. Ghost tours and penis outings. Perfect. New Orleans, here we come. One of the things that I love doing with you guys, aside from talking and getting to know you better, is to play a couple of games that I always find fascinating because there's so many different ways this could go.
I love games.
Yes. One of them is being two truths and a lie, which is also, I'm like, Viv, of all the games you could have played, you're playing with actors that know how to lie for a living. So you're going to tell me 3 things about yourself, of which 2 are truth and 1 is a lie. And we have to figure out which one's the lie. So if you're ready.
I'm ready. Okay. So I was in A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe. I used to be a florist before I became a narrator. I am a certified master canner.
Master canner. Okay. And by canning, you mean like the vegetables and the like canning foods?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what that is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, nowadays I'm like, what else can you can? But just wanted to make sure. Okay, so you were in the movie A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe. You were a florist before being an audiobook narrator, and you're a certified master canner. Okay, which one's the lie? Here's the thing, though. It's all in the details.
Mm-hmm.
Is the lie the certified master canner?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was not a florist. I've always wanted to be a florist, but I've never been one. But I actually am certified in food preservation, in canning.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wanted to learn that because my luck, I probably screwed it up, even though the degrees in culinary arts, one of them. But it's like, damn, I love it. It looks so pretty. And also it can, damn. I did not know that you could get certified in that though.
You can. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that, you can, when you're working with food, you don't want botulism. So if you know that you're certified, that's probably good.
Awesome. And you were then in the movie then with Beautiful Mind then too.
I ended up on the cutting floor, but I was 3 seats away from Jennifer Connelly. So that's something.
Well, I mean, you were in it. If it got cut out and edited, that's not, you were still in it.
Yep.
So totally. Your sense of you kind of like, and that's probably where you say that you wanted to be, but you never were. I can totally see you with flowers and things like that.
I am a flower lover. Someday, if for some reason I can't be a narrator, I will probably be a florist. I would love to be a florist.
They figure out some swag for you then with flowers or something like that then.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm curious. I'll just see what she has.
Temptation.
Yeah. Awesome. This is good. Again, something I learned. I did not know about being, but it makes sense. I think it's just one of those things where people are like, yeah, I want to can some food. Google it, YouTube it. But it's good to know that there's a certification for it. It makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah. And I tend to, when people give me canned goods, I'm like, thanks. Wondering, did you do this right? Did you put in the lemon juice? Or there's all these nuances to it. But yeah, anyway.
No, yeah. I think it's an art. I think it takes a lot of, again, it's good that there's a certification because, you would think that hopefully the learning happens because a little thing can go so wrong.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So wrong.
Yeah.
So wrong. And killing is not a good thing.
Sometimes. No.
That's why they always say don't piss off an author because they will write you in the story and kill you off.
Yes.
So be nice to the authors. So you would being a first-time guest, you wouldn't know this second part. But one of the things that we do with our guest is after we we finish the episode, we do a little bit for the Patreons because they get exclusive content for supporting the podcast. And we do a quick round of Would You Rather. And I've had this question, I think, for like the longest time. And the question is, would you rather tell everyone your guilty pleasures or never partake in your guilty pleasures ever again? And not it, right? So you would tell me, you either tell everybody and you're like, oh, I would tell everybody because, why would I not want to do it? But no one's ever really said to me what their guilty pleasure was. Mm-hmm. And the running joke kind of with the guests has always been like, okay, when you come back, we'll talk about your guilty pleasures. And we've kind of like left it at that. Have I ever asked anybody? No.
No.
Because I'm like, I don't want to know if this is you being handcuffed or not, or like it could just be ice cream at 9:00 at night,
Yep.
You never know. But I was like, you know what? I keep fucking around and joking about, I'm going to start asking it.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, again, everybody tends to automatically go on the sexual side for some reason. I'm like, yeah, I know we're romance folks, but no. But I'm curious always to be like, what do we consider a guilty pleasure? So I'm assuming that you would tell people versus not ever partaking ever again. So what are your guilty pleasures?
Yeah, and I would say I don't have anything sexual on this list because I have no guilt about my fun in that way. So,
Good answer.
so my guilty pleasures. Oh, I love gin and tonics. Probably that's definitely a guilty pleasure. And milk duds. I could do those both at the same time. And I'm a football fan. I love watching NFL. That's my fluff. Those are my guilty pleasures. And if I could drink coffee in bed every morning for like an hour and just lay there and drink coffee, I would do that. Those are my guilty pleasures.
Were you happy on Sunday for Super Bowl?
Yes. Yep. I play fantasy football. I do all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know how it happened, but it's, and I say all the time, I'm just like, that's my fluff. This is my fluff. Everybody needs their fluff. And my fluff is football.
Nice.
Milk duds and gin and tonics.
Yeah. So you said that you could do that at the same time. I'm going to assume, or you can tell me like, is it like part of your drink that you're doing it? Or you're like, I don't care if it goes together or not. I'm going to have my milk duds and I'm going to have my gin tonic.
Yeah, no, they don't put them together or anything like that. Yeah. Those are the two separate things that if I am indulging in something, and I have celiac, so I don't get to, say things like donuts and pie, even though I would if I could, but I can eat candy.
Yeah. I've been trying to expand my alcohol intake as far as, because I usually go straight for like the margaritas or the Bahama Mamas, or from the wine, I'll do like mead because I'm the girl that loves the Renaissance and it's sweet. So I'm like,
nice. Yeah.
But I recently got into gin. A friend of mine, that's her drink of choice, gin. So there's been different concoctions made. And so I'm like, lemon drops has been another one too, with vodka. That's another one. So I'm trying to learn different ways to intake the alcohol. That's not just a dessert, like a, mudslide.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I've tried gin and tonics. I think I may have to check on the different tonics to make me like it better.
Yeah, you definitely do that. And you need the lime. And a lot of times I love grapefruit and everything. So grapefruit juice in those, but that's not very sweet. So that might not work out. Trying to think of something else you could mix in. I mean, you could mix anything in the gin, I guess. I'll have to think about it and send you a recipe.
Yeah, that'd be great. Because again, I'm all for it. And that when we're at Dark Star, we're like, hey, let's try this stuff. May not be able to walk out afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, see, again, it's just, I'm glad that you made that comment about, and sexually not being guilty about anything. And it's the way that it should be. But also the same thing with this stuff. I think that sometimes we just put guilt in things because we feel like we have to be hustling all the time, or it may not be the best for us or what we think is good for us.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad that you are able, and I'm hoping that you tend to indulge in these things enough to keep you going and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Good. She's like, yeah.
Now I want all of these things when I'm done here.
Yeah. Well, heck, it's, reward systems work for some people, and others, may not even have thought about it as a reward. I'm like, well, no, if you're looking forward to it afterwards, it's a reward.
It's true. I do that after I finish a book. I tend to have like a favorite little cocktail after I finish each book that I do. And I went on the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky recently.
Uh-huh.
So I have a bunch of things that I bought from there. And sometimes that will be my little, like, I finished a book. Woo, cheers.
Nice. You have to have those moments of congratulatories. Otherwise, it could be, again, solitary work and stuff like that. And you're like, who knows? And then the book doesn't get published until like 5 weeks or months or maybe years later.
It's true. Yeah. And I am a festive person. I'm that person that if it's a holiday or a birthday or something, there's a reason to celebrate, I want to do it.
It's good. I think celebrating is important. And those milestones, whether we think of them small or big, is important too. So I'm glad that you do that.
Yeah.
I've also had a few of you guys as guests go rogue on me and like totally switch it up and start asking me questions. And I'm like a dork, kind of like, oh yeah, we're just having a regular. And they're like, sure. And I start answering. And I'm like, wait, Bennett, hold on. No one wants to know about me, kind of a thing. I was like, it's not about me. It's about you guys. So I figured that I kind of add that here and provide you the opportunity to go rogue, me being someone that likes to be on top of projects. I'm going to know that it's purposely happening. I'm like, okay with it. When it goes, unplanned, it's like a little like, oh, but purposely I'm good with it. So if you have any questions for me, I will answer them.
I do. And they're pretty painless, I would say, but they're things that I'm interested in for you. I am wondering, and this might be what we talked about before, Where you want to ring in, if you could be anywhere, your next decade, like the big decade birthday, where do you want, if you could choose anywhere in the world, where would you want to ring your next decade birthday in?
Ooh, good question. Man, if I didn't have to worry about finances or head sitting with the dogs and stuff like that.
Nope, it's magic. It's magic. You just get to be there.
I think I would love to be able to stay at a castle somewhere in England or Scotland and just be there for, weekends and stuff like that. Bonus if there's a ghost or two.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And I would also be the girl that'd be like, y'all are dressing up with me, okay? We're going to have the long nightgowns, going through the hallways and with candlelight, sitting on those gorgeous couches and pillows on the floor and eating some gin and tonic and milk duds.
Oh, that is a dream.
Yeah, right. I think that's where I would, just to be able to say that we did it, right? It was done, and just the experience of it all, and to be able to say, wow. But I'm also a sucker for old architecture, and the fact that these structures have been standing for so long, and some of them have become like B&Bs and hotels, and you can rent them out and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I would so do that.
That would be great. I hope that for your next decade, I hope you do that. I really do.
Thank you. I want to tell my husband. Maeve said I could do it.
That's right. She can.
They said I should do it, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, and start putting them in my jar. Instead of the jar says books, but instead of books, I'll just put trip. Yeah, but that's a good question. It's a good one. I have to think about that for a second. I'm like, oh yeah, but at the same time, you kind of need the answer, I'm sure.
Yeah, a little bit, because we talked a little bit about that. But
yeah,
do I get more, or do I just get the one?
No, you guys have done it where it's been 1 or 2 or 3 or 5. So go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I got one, and this could be hard. You can pass, because this could be hard. So, your life story. Is there a narrator that you feel could narrate it as you? What narrator would you like to be you in your life story?
Ooh.
It's a hard one, and it doesn't mean that you necessarily, it could be your favorite or it might not be, but who feels like you? Who could play you?
Ooh. See, that's hard, because especially when it comes down to like your life story, you're so unique. And, you've gone through these stuff and you're like, okay, so who can be the truest, bring that truest voice and kind of like emotion to it? Nicole Poole is one narrator, I think, that can evoke the emotions out of you while you're listening. And when she's narrating, you completely think that it's maybe like a multicast when it's just her doing a solo narration. So she's one that I think could have the fun and the excitement of some of the stuff that I've done that are like, ooh, yeah, okay. And at the same time, go through some of those sad moments and be able to tell the story in a way that can potentially help someone else that might be listening.
I love that. And I'm not really familiar with Nicole as well as I should be. So I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, she's great. She has this thing with her voice where it's just like you get so, and a lot of you have it like when we completely like lose track of time and things like that. But for her, I just think that the way that she has this storytelling ability and kind of thinking about the stuff that, like, I'm sarcastic as shit. I mean, like, you're like, why do you gotta be so sarcastic? I go, me? Sarcastic? No. Oh, okay. So she's done characters like that. And to the point where I'm like, damn, you and I could be friends, bitch. Okay.
Yeah.
And other times also again, having those, like, not everything is sunshine and rainbows, right? We have our moments in our lives where sometimes because of social media, no one knows about them or sees them, because we want to always present the best part of things and what we think is what people want to see. But when it comes down to like a memoir and stuff like that, there's a lot of stuff I think that would be nice to be able to tell in a way that is true. And, people can look at it and go, okay, all right. So what can we learn from this?
Yeah, I love that. Okay, I have one more.
Okay.
This one's easy. I just kind of want to know this about you.
Okay.
Would you prefer something like bar hopping with a big group, game night with 10 people or so, or one-on-one coffee wine? What's your favorite way to be with people?
Ooh, it's a mix between the game night and the one-on-one.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I will go bar to, I'll be there and help you and hang out with you at the bar and do the bar hopping, things like that. But I feel and think that there's just be able to kind of like hang out and talk, to me, is a lot. Like, it means a lot to me. It's like that quality time if we were looking at love languages and stuff like that. And just being able to have these kind of conversations, whether it's like, oh my God, I got the shoes that I wanted, or oh my God, she's being a bitch.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't know what to do, or just literally talking about books. And so the game night is kind of something that I've always liked, having smaller dinner parties or game nights like that, and celebrating birthdays, because you can also learn a lot how people play the games, their moods.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. How they are, if they're able, when depending on the game, if they're being more shrouding in secrecy, are they opening to having those dialogues? Do they partner well with other people? There's a lot of learning psychologically that you can do on a game night.
I never thought of that. And you are so right.
Absolutely. I'm so into, like, that's also why people say to me, like, man, you hit the nail on the head. I pick up on the vibes. I pick up on those body languages. And sometimes people show their true colors when they think no one's looking. I'm always looking. If I'm in the room, I'm always watching. I see it. So you can tell me something with your mouth and I'm looking at you, but I also see everything else that's happening and has happened.
The constant observer.
Yes. and that tells me a lot about people too, though, and it's a lot of times people are like, oh no, it's just a game. I'm like, well, yeah, but if I was in this situation, blah, 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 and then also spending the time to just sit and talk with somebody, and whether that environment is like you were saying, just hanging out, drinking wine or a coffee, that one-on-one, when you are able to give that attention to someone, is very valuable to me, whether I'm giving it to you or if you're giving it to me.
Yeah.
I completely take that as an honor and a gift of, really, it's invaluable to me to be able to spend that time with people.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I'm not, the big group thing I can do for a little bit, but then, I get tired real quick in those instances, but I could talk with someone about something interesting or play games like you were saying. Yeah. But the observer thing, that's great. I'm going to have to do that next time I have people over for Monopoly or Cards Against Humanity.
That's a good one. And I have a game. I'm going to bring my cards with me. It's almost like a Cards Against Humanity, but it's called Romance versus the World.
Oh,
and
what?
It's made by it was created by an author. And it's really like a party game for book lovers. You may have seen some people posting about it on social. It's been around for a year or two. But as soon as I found out, I'm like, oh, I'm so buying that. I have yet to play it, but I'm so taking it to, Dark Star Con. And it's just going to be, we're going to sit there and have fun and just, drink coffees. If you're not a drinker of cocktails, we can have some fun with the mocktails. Okay, people?
Yeah.
Sometimes they taste better than the alcohol. But I will be taking this game with me because it's fascinating. The Game Against Humanities. I played it with my kid, and who's now 21, and my husband and my brother one time. And I'm like, damn, because we have options and yet we're still picking these options out. So I'm like, okay, tell me what you were really thinking, babe.
Yeah, it shows the inner mind for sure.
Yes, I think it does. But also sometimes I'm going, I'm not surprised. And I'm like, they're like, oh, I'm like, you know me. You know where my head goes.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Those are good questions.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Watch, you're going to have one of those game nights and you're going to start picking up on those little nuances about people, whether they have a tell, which then also becomes a tell when they're having a conversation with you. If they're lying or they're not comfortable, how they sit, the arms and stuff like that. If they're talking with hands and then they're not talking with their hands, what that could potentially mean. It's a lot. But
I like it.
Well, this has been fantastic. I could talk to you like forever, but that would be a very long episode.
Yes, this has been so fun.
Yeah. And when I believe in the pause button, I also am very valuable in your time and stuff. So before we go, can you tell us what you're currently working on and what else is coming up for you next that you can share? I know NDAs and all that fun stuff.
Yes, there is one that I'm so excited about, but I'm pretty sure I can't share that one. So that's too bad. I've got quite a bit in a row here because it's dual narration. So it's like only 4 hours per book or something like that. So I'm working on something with Podium right now. It's a series by M. Sheridan, and I'm on the third book next, which is Discovered. And the first book is Lost, second one is Forgotten, and those should be out soon. So that one is coming up. And then I'm actually on a book coming up with Mr. Troy Duran. And we're doing Taste Me by J.R. Thorne. So that is going to be really fun. And Gregory Salinas and Jeffrey Holtz are also in that book too. So.
Nice. Oh, Gregory's so sweet. I love him.
Love him.
He's adorable. The other name, I have not talked to him yet, so I cannot tell you.
He's great. Yes. Jeffrey Holtz he's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. If I were doing like, well, Maeve said you were awesome, so you got to live up to that. But you also have a bunch of books on pre-order. I mean, like when we're talking versus when this episode, still some of them are going to be in March and stuff like that. So you have quite a few coming out.
Yeah, there's quite a few on pre-order right now. I'm trying to remember which one is the most recent, but yeah.
So that one that you can't tell us, and I'm not going to ask you about, but could you potentially give us an idea of like, are you going to be like a gargoyle? Like, are you going to be like a man in distress? I mean, stuff like that. I've always like, you can kind of share a little bit of that for those that might like more of fantasy, or they're going to be like contemporary.
Yeah, no, this is actually a romance, a contemporary romance with dreamscape, but it's about a traveling woman and finding love and healing. And so I love those journeys of, it's kind of a mixture between romance and women's fiction. And I really love those. So I am super excited about that one. So it's a romance.
Yay, I have to look that up. I was like adding little notes in my calendar because I am that girl. I'll put your name on it and I'm like, it's contemporary kind of fiction, and said that. So that's where I know, and I would never want you to, tell us something that you've said that you're not going to tell, because that's how NDAs work, folks, in case, someone needs to be reminded.
Yep.
But you could tell us that you're going to be a dragon hunter and, there's going to be aliens, or there's going to be a firefighter, stuff like that can kind of get people also to be like, oh, okay. All right.
Yes.
They're always fun. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It's been fun.
Thank you. It has been fun. I've never really done anything like this before. So thank you.
I love popping cherries.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I am no longer the virgin here.
Yay. Yeah. Again, well, thank you for trusting me with being your first. I really do appreciate it.
It was good. Was it good for you?
Yeah, it was. It's been fantastic. I want to do it again. If you're not following her on social media, I'm going to provide you with all the links so you guys don't have to go hunting for them. So just click and follow. Those can be found over on this episode's landing page over at Viviana Enchantress of Books. Also, make sure to go and grab your Darkstar Con tickets so you can kind of hang out with us and play that lovely game. I'm not kidding. Romance versus the World. And to learn more about Darkstar Con, go over to their website. And I'm going to slow this down because I know I talk fast. It's like www.darkstarcon.com to, again, learn more about the event and grab your tickets. And until next time, happy listenings.
Thank you to all of our Audiobook Lovin Podcast Patreon. The Audiobook Lovin Podcast has special Patreon access levels. Join today to receive benefits including early access to episodes, shout-outs, special exclusive content, and much more. Support the podcast by becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/audiobookloving. We thank you for your support.
Thank you for joining us on the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, hosted by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. For links and more information discussed in today's episode, previous podcasts, or the Audiobook Lovin Series, please visit our website, vivianaenchantressofbooks.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a positive review wherever you listen to our podcast. Until next time, happy listening.